Welcome to Kautilya. Now we are discussing the basic concepts in child psychology: growth, development, maturation, maturity or maturation, and readiness. These are the basic concepts in child psychology. What is the importance of child psychology? What is the importance of child development? Why should we know child development? Today, modern education is child-centered education. It is a child-centered education. And imparting education to the children, today teacher is facing so many problems. What are they actually? There are so many differences between the students. Individual differences are there, and differences in terms of intelligence, difference in terms of learning. So many problems are there. These problems are very complex problems to understand. Before teaching, before developing certain teaching and learning techniques and programs and activities, the teacher is expected to know and have the awareness about child psychology and child development. Whatever the changes taking place in various dimensions of human personality, he must have the awareness about. And let us talk about the development, growth and development, the basic concepts, growth and development. Here see, before entering into the subject, at the outset, I will have to deal with a topic: change. Change is the law of nature. It's an inevitable one. Everything must be subjected to change, be it animated thing or inanimated thing, or living things or non-living things. The principle of change is applicable universally to living things as well as non-living things. There is no exception. There is no permanent thing in the entire world except change. Change is inevitable, change is permanent. So change is law of nature, it's law of nature. Both animated and inanimated, living or non-living things must be subjected to change in some form or the other. Here see, the life begins, in the human life, the life begins with the conception of mother womb. With the conception of mother womb, mother's womb. By fertilization of the egg of mother with the sperm cell of father, the fertilization takes place. So the life begins in the conception of mother's womb. Hence, mother's womb, it becomes a site. It becomes a site and means for growth and development of an individual. Growth and development of an individual. For growth and development of individual, mother's womb becomes a site and means. It's a place and means. Okay. So here see, whatever the period the life has taken in mother's womb should be called as prenatal period. Prenatal period. This prenatal period, 9 months period in mother's womb, is called prenatal period. It is generally not calculated, it is generally not computed in one's chronology of life, in one's age of life or chronology of life. Okay. Here see, growth and development. Growth and development. These two concepts generally, in general man's conception, they are used as synonymous words. Interchangeably they are used. They are used as synonymous words or appear to be having equal meaning or similar meaning. But going by strict psychological terminology, there is a lot of difference existing between growth and development. Let us have this concept separately and individually. Let us take, for instance, growth. Okay, before going into this concept separately, let us talk about the changes taking place in individual, the changes taking place in personality in various dimensions. Whatever the changes takes place in individual, in human personality in various dimensions, they can be broadly categorized into two groups. What are they? Quantitative and qualitative changes. Second one, quantitative and qualitative. The changes takes place in personality can be broadly divided into two categories as quantitative and qualitative. Here see, these quantitative changes may be limited to physical ones, physical things. and it is called growth. The quantitative changes may be confined to growth, the concept of growth. So physical development is called growth. Okay, for instance, growth means we can see it clearly. The growth or the changes taking place in terms of growth can be seen physically, can be seen individually, can be seen clearly. What are they? Size, weight, height. Okay, these things we can see them. They are very much palpable. They are very much obvious. Again, growth can be divided into two categories. What are they? External growth and internal growth. External growth and internal growth. What does it imply, external growth? What are the changes taking place in terms of physical personality, structural personality? Just we have come across these concepts. What is that? Size, weight, height, etc. They come under the category of external growth. They can be seen overtly, externally. And they can be measured accurately. We can measure them accurately. But whereas internal growth, what comes under internal growth? Mind, okay, so that is human brain, nervous system, tissues, muscles, okay, so glands, reproductive system, these things are covered under internal growth. So growth is a concept that stops at certain stage in the life. That is generally stopped at certain stage in the life. It stops at certain stage in the life, at certain age in the life. It's not a continuous process like development. So coming to development, what is development? Development is both structural as well as functional. Both, it is related to structure, physical as well as functional. Structural and functional. Even growth is also a part and parcel of development. Growth is also a part and parcel of development, is a part of development. That means physical growth is also a part of development, human development, part of development. Okay, it's both structural as well as functional. It deals with physical, mental, emotional, social, moral, all spheres of human development. All spheres of human, be it physical, even physical development also comes under development. Mental development, emotional development, language development, social development, and moral development, and all spheres of human excellency, human development comes taught under the topic of development. Okay, so by considering all these aspects, one can assume that development, the concept development, the term development is having wider connotation, wider meaning, and more comprehensive meaning, wider and more comprehensive meaning than that of growth. Growth is used in the narrow sense, whereas development is used in a wider sense and broader sense, encompassing all these units: mental, physical, emotional, language related development, spiritual development. All these broader aspects are covered under the wider dimension, namely development. Okay, this is the concept of development. So here see, of course, growth, it provides the basis for development. Undoubtedly, growth provides the basis for development. In the strict psychological terminology, there may be the variation between the two terms like growth and development, but we cannot separate them altogether. Why? Because growth provides the foundation, it provides the basis for the development. As Aristotle aptly remarked, a Greek philosopher, Aristotle aptly remarked, suitably remarked that healthy mind will be there in the healthy body. Sound mind will be there in the sound body. So sound body, it's a physical phenomena, and sound mind, it's a mental phenomena. So sound mind exists in sound body. So here see, what we can observe from this comment, growth provides, it lends the foundation, the bedrock for development. Okay, and let us talk about the age span of human developmental stages. Age span for human developmental stages. Very, very basic concept, human developmental stages. What is the age span for various human developmental stages? For instance, infancy, the stage we can call it as infancy, infant stage. What is the stage, infant stage? right from the birth to 2 years. It's called infancy, 2 years old infant, right from birth to 2 years. And let us talk about childhood. Which period is considered as childhood? Childhood again can be divided into two categories, pre-childhood and later childhood. Pre-childhood and later childhood. What about childhood? Total broad period of childhood. Let us see the total period of childhood. It is 3 years to 12 years. It is called childhood. And what about pre-childhood? Pre-childhood 3 years to 6 years. And later childhood 7 years to 12 years. Later childhood 7 years to 12 years. And after childhood, adolescence. Adolescence 13 years to 19 years. Adolescence. After adolescence, adulthood. Adulthood 20 years to 60 years. And old age, generally from 61 years till the death. So these are the age span for various human developmental stages. Infancy, right from birth to 2 years. Later childhood, 3 years to 12 years. Again, childhood can be divided into two categories, pre-childhood, later childhood. Pre-childhood starts from 3 years and ends up with 6 years. And later childhood 7 years to 12 years. And later adolescence 13 years to 19 years. Later adulthood 20 years to 60 years. Later old age 61 years to till death. So these are the age span for human various developmental stages. And let us talk about the striking differences between growth as well as development. What are the striking differences between growth and development? At the outset, we can say that growth is related to only physical aspects. And whereas development, the changes occurring in overall developmental stages, overall changes. It is related to overall changes occurring in various dimensions of human personality, be it physical, mental, emotional, speech related, okay, and moral, spiritual, all this social, these changes. Okay, and again another difference between the growth and development. Growth is structural, strictly speaking structural, external or internal, structural, and whereas it is both structural as well as functional. Structural as well as functional. What is that? Development. Another striking difference between growth and development. Growth, it stops at certain age in human life, whereas it's a continuous process. Development is continuous process. You can see development as a continuous process, okay, from womb to tomb. Womb to tomb. That is from the birth to death. It's a continuous process, never-ending process. It takes place. However, it may be sometimes small, sometimes gradual, sometimes faster at pace, but it takes place in all dimensions, human personality, till he dies. And growth, strictly speaking, it's a narrowed concept. It's a narrow concept. Whereas development, encompassing, involving so many things, so many facets in the human life, is a wider concept and more comprehensive than growth. We have already delineated that. And another difference between growth and development is growth is confined to one area, whereas the changes occurring in many areas is called as development. Many areas is called development. Okay, these are the striking differences between growth and development. Growth is structural and development is both structural as well as functional. Growth is related to physical things, and whereas development related to physical, mental, emotional, and all spheres of human life. Okay, and let us talk about another important concept that is called maturation. In the development of human personality, apart from growth, development, another thing is also vital. That very thing is called maturity or maturation. In the development of human personality, as apart from growth, besides growth and development, another vital aspect, vital factor that makes a lot of difference in the development of human personality is maturation. Maturation. Strictly speaking, what is the definition of maturation? How do you understand maturation? Maturation is nothing but the changes in behavior. Just let me explain the scientific definition for maturation. Changes in behavior. Okay, changes in behavior produced by maturation are closely linked with unfolding and ripening, inherited traits. Inherited traits means qualities. Inherited traits in the natural process of growth. How do you understand this entire definition? Simply speaking, without any training, without any impact of external factor, without impact of any external factor, whatever the development takes place naturally with age and passing time is called maturation. With age and passing time is called maturation. So it's a naturally acquired quality, acquired trait, maturation. So what is the significance of maturation in the human development, in human personality development? Let us talk about maturation, the importance of maturation. Best example I would like to cite in order to make you understand about the concept of maturation. What is it? We can bring a horse nearer to a pond water tank, but we cannot compel it, force it to drink the water. That is the significance of readiness. That is a different concept. But here maturation is a totally different concept. What is this different concept? Maturation is a very vital aspect. Without maturation, a child cannot learn anything, including speech. For learning speech, for learning language, a basic degree of maturation is required. A basic degree of maturation is required for learning the concept of speech. Okay? A basic degree of maturation is required for learning the concept of speech. Right. So, in another concept, we can say that development is equal to maturation into learning. Maturation into learning. Without maturation and learning, complete human personality is not accomplished. A child develops into a full-fledged human personality only after acquiring maturation and learning. So, these two factors are very important in the human development. Okay, and let us talk about readiness. Earlier I told you readiness. Readiness. What is readiness? Significance. Just I have cited the example. What is that example? We can bring a horse to the water tank, but we cannot compel it to drink water. So that is the significance of readiness. Readiness is a prerequisite, is a very, very important phenomena for learning. What is a prerequisite for learning? Readiness. However, the best teacher may be existing. However, the best teaching may be imparted. But if the student is not having readiness, the entire teaching and the entire creative genius will be futile, will be waste. That is the significance of readiness. It is a prerequisite for learning. Readiness of a student is a prerequisite for learning. If a student is not in a position to receive the things which are taught by the teacher, the teaching itself is waste. Here, see, readiness of the student is very, very important. It's very vital in the process of learning. So these are the basic concepts. And let us talk about another important aspect, that is principles of development. Principles of development. Though development is an individual phenomena, it has been found scientifically that it follows certain norms, certain principles. They are called principles of development. What are the principles of development? First one, development follows logical and sequential order. It's logical and sequential. There is a sequence, an order for developmental stages. There is an order for developmental stages. For any developmental stages, it required an order. Okay, that's called, it's logical and sequential. Logical and sequential. And it's a continuous activity. It's a continuous activity. It's a continuous one. Rule of continuity. It's called rule of continuity, principle of continuity. I told you already, Growth stops at certain stage in the human life, but development, whereas development, it continues, it's a continuous process, never-ending process. It occurs in human personality throughout his life, till he dies. So it's a continuous activity. There is no stop for development. And third one, rule of individual differences. Rule of individual differences. Every organism is unique in its creation. It's a very, very important universal concept. Every organism, every living thing is unique in its origin, in its creation. So thereby, therefore, even the differences exist between person to person, and even the development, the rate of development also, it differs from person to person. Some people, they grasp the thing at faster pace, and some students, they may be dull in receiving the things, in grasping the things. They may be dull in receptivity. So what is the application of this rule of individual differences in educational psychology? The teacher has to consider these differences, individual differences between the students while imparting the lesson. And third one, lack of uniformity in all stages and in respect of developmental rate. It's also very, very important. With the examples we can explain lucidly also. Lack of uniformity in all stages in respect of developmental stages. However, development is a continuous process which exists throughout the life, but the pace of development, the rate of development is not uniform in all stages. For instance, take for instance, physical growth. The concept of physical growth is also included in the development. Take for instance, physical growth. It is rapid at infant stage. It is at faster pace at infant stage. But whereas in childhood, it is somewhat slower. Whereas coming to adolescence, it is again faster. So the developmental rate in all stages is not uniform. It's not at all uniform. And for instance, emotional development is there. Emotional development, mental maturity, two concepts. Emotional development, mental maturity. So at the beginning of adolescence, during adolescence, these two concepts are at faster pace. Like it doesn't happen in any other stages of human life. Okay. So it's more rapid at the adolescent stage, more than that of any stage in the human personality, in the stages of human personality development. So there is no uniformity in the developmental rate in all stages. It's also very, very important. Lack of uniformity in all stages in developmental rate. And another important aspect regarding the principles of or the rules of development, the rule of starting from general things to specific things. From general to specific, simply proceeding from general to specific thing. What is the rule of proceeding from general to specific things as a principle of development? Here's the best example I would like to quote here. The infant child, newly born infant, he cries involving all his body. Not only his face, not only his eyes, he involves all his body while crying. But after he develops and grows at certain level, he involves only vocal cords while crying, or eyes and facial expressions, not the rest of the body. So this is what the change takes place as development taking place in the human life. So there is what rule of proceeding from general to all bodies involved while crying at the infant stage. As infant develops, he involves only vocal cords, facial expressions and eyes, not the rest of the body. So from general to specific, he moves. The development moves. The process of development moves. Another important example is initially the child, he calls every person who comes nearer to him or to her as mommy and daddy. That is a general concept, and everyone is mommy and daddy for his conception, in his conception. And in the process of the development of language, he calls every person, he addresses every person as mommy and daddy. He cannot identify who is exactly mommy and daddy. As he develops, as he grows, naturally he can identify the mother as mommy and the father as daddy. This is what the proceeding from general to specific things. It's also a very, very important rule. Another thing, it is from simple to complex. The rule of proceeding from simple to complex. For instance, before going into multiplication and division, subtraction, and some complex mathematical problems and sums, one has to learn what is that numbers. After learning numbers only, the rest of the complex things have to enter. So this is what from simple to complex. By keeping this principle in the mind, the teacher has to progress with the concept of from simple to complex. From simple to complex. And let us have another example from simple to complex like that. What is that? What is that? Even speech. What is that? Listening. First listening, later speaking, speech, later reading, next writing. LSRW. It also follows a systematic and logical approach, and from simple to complex. Language development also starts from listening, next speaking, speech, next reading, next writing. SLRW. From simple to complex. It's also an example for sequential order. It's also an example for development in the sequential order. Okay. First, the child stands, and later he takes slow walk, later he runs, later he swims. It is also from simple to complex. By keeping this norm and the principle in the mind, the teacher has to move from simple to complex, from general to specific. This is the application of these rules of development in teaching methodology, to make teaching as a successful one. Okay, and another principle is there, that is development depends on heredity rule and environment. Heredity rule and environment is also very vital. And rule of predictability, it is also very predictability. Rule of predictability. What is rule of predictability? For instance, we know about the height of the child at 2 years age. When he is 2 years boy, we know about his height. We can estimate the height of the same boy after he attains the age of 20 years. Based on the rate of development at present juncture, we can have the forecast about the development takes place in the human personality, physically and mentally as well. Let us talk about the example in mental development in the same case, rule of predictability. We can predict the development of the child, what happens to him in the development in future. For instance, in unit tests, a child got more and more marks. Then you can predict that he will become a ranker in the final year examination. So the rate of development presently, it will suggest the cues for the predictability of human development which takes place in future. This is also called rule of predictability. So these are the important principles and the rules guiding the concept of development.